the way to do that is to expand this operating system that Roma was talking about, so that instead of being written and having that choice written for us, we walk into it. We get to choose. So what do you do that? You have to be in a place where you're learning in a way that changes you, right? Where you're not just learning stuff. And one of the things I'm really on about is how can we do this every day at work, right? I run leadership programs and I coach people and stuff like that, but the thing I'm really curious about is how is it that every day becomes a development opportunity? How is it that every conversation, every meeting becomes a place where you could learn new stuff and have like new insights? How many of you ever go to meetings where you don't learn new stuff and have new insights? Anybody go to meetings like that? Right? I really wonder, how could we change that? And so with my colleague, Keith Johnston, we talked about whether there are these kind of habits of mind. These are just general habits of mind that actually feed this transforming self, right? And that those habits of mind, Roma was talking earlier about a kind of balancing loop. And this is a kind of escalating loop, right? How could the habits of mind, if we engaged in them, create our transformation, which would actually let us engage in these habits of mind more? So that's what we set out to do. I'm going to offer you 3, if you're curious. You curious? So I'm going to offer you 3. Bob's going to go deeper into some of this stuff. So let's have a play with these 3. Here's the first idea. The wise man doesn't give the right answers. He poses the right questions. The first habit of mind, and we looked across all kinds of literature. We looked across transformational learning. We looked at leadership development stuff. We looked at what does it really take to grow and change, and some of the neuroscience stuff that's coming out. Turns out that the questions that you have sort of inside you tend to be questions that won't unsettle you, right? They come from your thinking, from your experience, and they tend to be questions that are not going to make you really think hard. It's really interesting. We ask questions to learn a little bit more, but we don't ask questions to transform ourselves. So what we need to do, if you're going to be in this transformative space, is to ask different questions. And notice, it's not about asking better questions. It's about asking different questions. And as I've spoken to people around the world about who asks you, who in your life asks you the questions that really make you think about things in a new way, what do you reckon is the most common response? What do you think? Number 1 response, children. Mommy, why do you do that? What is leadership development? And why does anybody care? You know what answer I don't get? My boss. I almost never get that answer. Wouldn't it be great if that were the second most common answer? Who asks you questions that really make you think about things in a new way? My boss. That would be super cool. I've been running a leadership program in this one organization for a few years, and we use these 3 habits of mind as the design principle for the program. And I started a new one last week. And when I asked this question, who asks you the best questions? Several people said, my boss. And that might be the coolest thing that ever happened to me in my working life. So this question about how do you have access to new and different questions, right? How is that happens for you in your life? Not the kind of questions that you already know the answer to, or you know what the answer should be, right? Have you done such and such for this report? You know what the right answer to that question is, right? Not those kinds of questions. The questions we're really curious about. And a big piece of it is about trying to figure out, what are you really curious about? What do you wonder about? What do you not know? And you don't feel bad about it. You feel, that'd be cool to not know that. And how could you get into that space more often? How could we all get each other into that space? How could we design systems and processes and things like that where we could talk to each other more about that? So that's the first one. I'm going to give you time to talk about it. I'm going to describe the three and then let you talk about it, okay? Here's the second one. The real act of discovery consists not in finding new lands, but in seeing with new eyes. This one is about taking multiple perspectives. It's really interesting. Taking multiple perspectives has been the cornerstone of adult development theories, right? The perspectives that you can hold, perspectives in tension that you can hold simultaneously has long been a thing that people looked at to try and understand. But it's more and more shows up in leadership theories too. This question about, can you mediate across difference? And lots of people are saying that one of the core leadership competencies, it's not really even a competency actually, it's a way of being, right? One of the core leadership competencies people are talking about is this ability to take quite divergent perspectives and not choose, but instead transcend and figure out a new way, right? That new way out of quite divergent spaces. If that is, in fact, a core competency for the future, we have to be able to do it. And doing it is not a skill. Doing it is a way of living into a new possibility. And so this question about how is it that multiple perspectives could shape your life, and how could you get more access to more of them? I was working with a leadership group, and they said, you know, thank you. We've been working on this multiple perspectives thing, and we think we got it. We think we now take the perspectives of everybody important. And you know, we have ways of figuring that out, and we have people who talk to those people, and then we synthesize all those, and we really got it. And I said, what about the unimportant people? I said, well, why would we spend our time taking the perspectives of the unimportant people? And you could see they were thinking, this is like, we're paying her money to ask us these questions. And the idea is, if you've decided that they're important people, you probably are doing a good job taking their perspective. It's the people whose perspectives you don't take that you have a lot to learn from. And everybody you've written off as unimportant, or you often hear, yeah, but those guys are morons. Those guys will never change. You know, we can't do anything with them. Those people exist in order to change us. Those people exist in order for us to figure out new things, right? They live in the world with us in order to help us to a new place. So the question isn't, are you taking the perspectives of the people you know you should be taking the perspectives of? The question is, whose perspective might you be afraid to take? And how could you reach into that? What would happen to you if you actually understood that perspective, really understood it, not in a way that sought to get around it, but that actually sought to value it? Okay, so there's that one. Here's one more. Romo was talking about this one too. The big news of the 21st century will be that the world as a whole has got to be managed, not just its part. This is about whether we can look at systems. The human brain is terrible at this. Human brain segments and takes things apart. That's what, when you look at fMRIs, it's what we do. What we do is we take stuff apart. The question is, how do we practice putting things back together? Each of these things is a practice. It's not a thing you get good at. It's not a thing you master. It's a thing you keep trying to do, because the practice of it makes you grow. Also, the practice of it makes you more effective. Both. That's lovely when those things come together. This question is, how is it that you could begin to understand more about the system? And how could you begin to take some of the tricks that our brain offers us, right? Some of these tricks that say things should happen in a kind of linear way, cause and effect should always be obvious and predictable. If I push this culture change program through, then I know what the steps are, and in 7 months, we'll have a new culture. Right? That's the way we want the world to work. And it's often the way we pretend the world works. And when that doesn't work, we think, we used the wrong process there. We'll hire a new consultant and we'll get a new process. And then in 7 months, we'll have a changed culture. You know? So how is it that we could deal with the unpredictability of systems, the emergence that happens in them, the non-linearity that happens in systems. Because the core issue is organizations are systems. Groups of people are systems. And we have all kinds of features collectively that it's really important for us to get a handle on. And the more work we do to understand that, the more we are able to move from a point of view to a vantage point. Right? We're able to, not to predict it and to be able to get a better 6-step process that will guarantee you a new culture, but to be able to say, hey, there's some stuff we could try here, and I think some of this stuff was going to work. But let's try it and see and learn and grow and try some more. And oh, that one didn't work, so we got to try another thing, and let's see how that goes. Not in a careless way, but in a really thoughtful way.